Hello, this is Mr. Inadequate, and I'm playing the tutorial series of Victoria 2 as a part of the countdown to Victoria 3 launching. And we're going to do politics this time. It's going to probably be a short video. We'll see how it goes. So, politics. Let me break my mouth open here. This tutorial will cover the political aspects of Victoria 2. Politics is one of the more important features in Victoria, too. As the game progresses and society changes, new political ideas will take root in your population, and your people will start to demand reforms. Political parties and reforms have a major impact on how you can control your country, and it's up to you how you want to manage the demands of your people. To find out more about politics, click the politics button in the top bar. Here we go. In this screen, you can see the current ruling party of your nation, the political leanings of your people, and voters and their issues. You can also change the ruling party if your government type allows, or start an election if you are democratically inclined. So it's hard to see here. Well, we got mostly conservatives, some liberals, and I think that is probably reactionaries. Yeah, I can't click on it. There's all the reforms and everything. Okay. Here you can see the ruling party of your country. A ruling party has an ideology and a number of policies. These policies impose rules for how your country behaves, such as if the state can build factories if only the capitalists do. And they also put limitations on the sliders in the budget screen. Belgium is ruled by the Catholic parties. You can find out more about their issues by hovering your mouse over each one. As the game progresses, your needs will change, as will your people's ideologies and the issues they support. You will have to balance the type of government you want with the one your population wants. Press next when you're ready to continue. So, our current ruling party, the Liberal Party, you can't build factories or expand them or open and close them or destroy factories. You can't build a railway. You can't prioritize factories or subsidize them. Capitalists, however, can expand and open factories. Bankrupt factories will be removed. We can't build a foreign factory, expand foreign factories. We can open a foreign factory. I don't know what the difference between opening and building is. Investors can build foreign railways, foreign factories. They can expand foreign factories. They cannot open foreign factories. We, the party will allow foreign investment. The party cannot invest in popular projects, and accepted cultures can vote. Yes. Okay. Now that's what trade policy is for free trade. That's economic. You know, maximum tax is plus 50%. Factory owner costs is plus 30%. Factory outputs plus 5%. Capitalists uh, are responsible for factories, can open a foreign factory. Investors, pretty much same as free trade. Pluralism, which is a religious policy. Okay. The state religion is actively promoted, but other religions are tolerated. Limited citizenship. Only people of your nation's primary and accepted cultures are allowed the vote. Assimilation rate plus 10%. Accepted cultures can vote. Sorry, I had H here. And our war policy is we are pro-military. And those are all the pluses and everything. Now, voters' ideologies are different than the people's ideologies. 38% of the voters are conservative, 50% of our population is conservative. So there's what, 12% of the people are not voters. 32% of the voters are reactionary. 14% of our population are reactionary. So a good portion of that 14% can vote, I guess, is what it means. And then 30% of the voters are liberal, and 36% of our population are liberal. Okay, let's press next. Reforms influence how your country works. You can institute a number of political and social reforms, and they're divided into two columns, social and political. Political reforms are things that affect the political system in your country, while social reforms will divert government money to help various groups in the population. You should consider instituting reforms that your population wants, but you must take care of it so that you can afford them. There is also the upper house to consider, which might take issue with new reforms being enacted. Below are a couple examples of reforms Belgium currently has. The voting system. Belgium has wealth voting. This means only the rich and middle strata are allowed to vote. If you would, for example, change to weighted wealth, the same strata would be allowed to vote, but with rich pops counted twice. Healthcare. Belgium has trinket healthcare. This means that at a cost, our population growth will increase by an extra 2.5%, but only if we fully fund the social reforms in the budget screen. Now, as you can see here, we have no minimum wage. We have a 14-hour workday, minimal safety regulations, no unemployment subsidies, no pensions, trinket health care, and no school system. Slavery is outlawed. The upper house, there's 2 members per state. Voting franchise is wealth. Voting system is the Jefferson method. Is the highest average method for allocating seats. Okay. Public meetings are allowed. Free press for press rights. Trade unions are illegal. And political parties, non-secret ballots. Okay, issues and voters. Here you can see how your people feel about things in your country. Notice the 2 pie charts, voter ideologies and people's ideologies. The difference between these is due to our voting system, which is a political reform. An effect of this difference can be that while a party may win an election, a majority of our people can get upset about this. Below you see the issues most important to your people and your voters. This can be an important factor to consider when implementing reforms. Now, the voters are 18.59% anti-military, whereas the people are only 9.15% anti-military. Atheism, 2.32% of the voters are for it. 1.6, it's very unpopular. Free trade, the voters don't like it as much as the people do. Interventionism, the voters like that more than the people at large do. And then jingoism, the voters like it less than the people. Okay, let's go to intermediary politics. Here you can see which party rules Belgium. It is currently the Catholic Party. The policies they support have a major impact on how your country behaves and which policies you can enact. the name of the party, you can see the current policies. For example, the nationalists practice state capitalism. One of the effects of this is that you can build factories manually, while under other systems, only capitalists can build factories. Another important effect of policies is they put limits on the budget slider. A state capitalist party will, for example, not accept taxes under a certain level. To learn more about governments, click next. Okay. If you don't like the current ruling party, the current government form has a major impact on your ability to do anything about this. The government also impacts which kind of ideologies are permitted to hold power. Belgium's current government form, for example, is HM's government. Under this system, there are elections, but the player may choose to overrule the results of these in favor of another party, at the cost of an increase in militancy among the party's supporters. Government form is a function of political reforms enacted, and the player can never change government form directly. For example, no democratic form of government can persist if the voting rights have been abolished. Okay. So they can appoint ruling party, and next election is January 1st, 1840. Under certain government forms, the ruling party is chosen through election. For example, an HM's government, or under a democracy. Under democratic governments, elections must be held at certain intervals, but it is, however, possible to start them early by clicking the Hold Election button. Once the election is started, an election campaign will kick off, during which events, such as scandals and rousing speeches, may alter its outcome. At the end of the campaign, the voters decide which party should rule based on what issues they consider important. Note that the voters are not necessarily the people as a whole in Belgium. For example, only the wealthy have the vote. So it would be these that would be considered because they're the voters. I mean, these would be considered, but the importance would be what the voters put on them. And apparently their interventionism is and anti-military. Okay. Political reforms affect how your country's political system works and how your people behave politically. The vote franchise and the voting system, for example, affect who gets to vote and how the votes are counted, while press rights affect how your literate population's politics change. The reason to enact political reforms are usually that your people demands it. They also be because you want greater freedom in deciding the course of your country. Now, let's move on to social reforms. Social reforms affect the well-being of your population. Some social, sorry about my voice. Some social reforms affect the productivity of industry, like max work hours, while others channel money from the state to certain segments of the population. Some social reforms can be very beneficial. Just be aware that managing reforms will increase the cost of your bureaucracy. Okay. Decisions. In the lower right corner of the politics screen, you will find your political decisions. These are important choices you can make for your country, such as changing the academic establishment, building the Panama Canal, or unifying Germany under your rule. If you hover a mouse over the question mark, you can see which the prerequisites exist for taking the decisions, and if you hover it over the tick, you can see the effects it has. So, for example, the military-industrial complex. Okay, you have to have at least a prestige of 45 and have a higher military score than 100. Now the tick, you lose 15 prestige. You get academic confusion until 2nd January 1846. Your research points modifier is a minus 1%. Your prestige is a minus 0.01. Okay. It would increase your Army tech by plus 15%, lower your Navy tech research by minus 5%, not really affect your commerce research. Your culture tech research would be minus 10%, and your industry would be plus 10%. Now, on cooperative industrialism, you have to have a, it's the same. You can choose one or the other, I would guess. And the ticks would be you lose 15 prestige, you get academic confusion, research points modifier is minus 1%, prestige is minus 0.01. And this time it's the commerce and industry that gets affected. Your culture don't, your Navy and Army gets sent down. It's it's are you going to do industry that affects that helps your military or not? Okay. If the tick is grayed out, you cannot take the decision because you don't fulfill the prerequisites. Okay, movements. Let me take a drink. I'm sorry. My voice is kind of hoarse today. Weather's going, the temperatures are going up and down and all around, and it affects my voice because I'm old. Finally, there is the ultimate consequence for ignoring the plight of your people, the rebel factions. As militancy rises in your population, your people will consider joining a rebel faction. If they do this, this will be displayed in the screen. A rebel faction has dissatisfied people with a similar cause as their members. As we can see, Belgium houses a reactionary faction. To the right of its name, you can see three values. These are membership count. Okay. Membership count, organization, not, okay, membership count, number of people who supports the faction. Organization, a percentage that represents the internal strength of the faction. This is increased if the dissatisfied people make a lot of money. Revolt, this is a risk of a general uprising of this faction. Should a faction rise in revolt, a number of rebel armies will spawn. The strength of these will be decided based on the membership count and organization. Just beware, if a single pop's militancy gets too high, it will rise with or without the support of its faction, and this might in turn increase the risk of a general uprising. To get rid of a faction, you must either defeat it in battle or address the concerns of your militant pops. To learn more about what different pops hold, you must check the population screen. For now, just click next. We're going to advance politics. Ah, plural, plural, plurality. I got that word is difficult for me. First up is plurality. This is a value reflecting a sort of collective want for reform in your country, and the higher it gets, the higher the demand for reform. There are also positive effects of having a more progressive population, such as increased research points. The plurality value will increase over time, and the rate will also increase with certain technological advances and inventions. If you hover your mouse over the plurality value, you can see Belgium's current rate, which is monthly change plus 0.08. It's at 1%. Okay, next. Revanchism is a value that represents anger in your population over perceived injustices at the hands of foreign nations. If you lose core territory, revanchism will increase, for example, and do so till you reconquer the land or enough time passes for your people to forget. If revanchism gets high enough, this will drive your people towards jingoism and fascism. While limiting, okay, this is the upper house. The limiting factor in making new reforms in Victoria too is the upper house. Depending on which parties sit in the upper house, you may or may not do social and/or political reforms. Different parties have different attitudes to reforms. Fascists, for example, will not support any reforms if the ruling party is not fascist, while the conservatives will only consider reform if the militancy in the country was extremely high. To the left, you can see how the current upper house of Belgium feels about reform and which ideology are represented. Okay. The composition of the upper house is decided based on the upper house political reform. Over your mouse so the different options to get an idea how your different parties feel about changing the current rules and click next. Okay, paying for social reforms. We institute social reforms to appease our population and make their lives easier. There is, however, a cost. Most social reforms will increase your need for bureaucrats, with two exceptions. Unemployment subsidies and pensions are paid directly to POPs to cover their basic life needs. Pensions are paid to everyone, covering up to 20% of their life needs. And unemployment subsidies are paid to unemployed POPs. Let's move on. Click next. Okay, so we're going to end this video here. It's been about politics. Probably finish the bottom of the screen. Population, trade, and diplomacy, and get up the Army Navy's production and budget. So this is Mr. Inadequate. I've been doing the tutorial of Vicky 2, specifically politics. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.